Inc. Review bombing.
And yes, while it is technically true that there has been a slight neon leak into some of the sleeping quarters on one and or both sides of the ship, it is also true that under Section 47-17-09 of your most recent employee rights contract, it clearly states that you, not the company or the ship, are responsible for keeping your personal areas chemical-free. Therefore, until every trace of neon is cleaned from those areas, the medical wing will not be accepting insurance claims for any chemical inhalant-related issues. The cleanup is scheduled to begin in 11 to 13 business days. Furthermore, the end of the month is approaching, and performance reviews for all of our trainee staff will take place randomly within the next 3 days. A reminder, assisting any and all trainee staff with preparing for this review, including building up, well-wishing, coaching, and or supporting in general, can and will result in strict penalties applied to both parties. And from all of us here at the announcement office, who are collectively making a generalized effort to be more personable as an office, we'd just like to say a friendly, please return to work, or you will be punished. Thank you. Happiness is productivity.
Do you have XJ1124?
XJ, KB, QR, NO. Hey, here we go. XJ1124.
What's it say?
Memory corrupted. Please dispose.
Trash it.
It's not trashing.
Trash it again.
I did. It just popped up. A little window says, ability to dispose corrupted. Please dispose.
That's not good.
See, this is why I hate end of the month memory info cleanup. It's always something like this. I don't know what I'm more annoyed about. The fact that we can't get any work done, or the fact that something in this department manages to work less than I do.
Just how it goes, I guess. I'll call a tech.
No, now we need a tech? We can't even fix it ourselves this time.
Not unless you suddenly know how to fix corrupted memorial disposal software. Jonas.
Yeah?
We've talked about kicking the computers.
But we haven't talked about it enough for me to stop.
I'll call the tech then.
Ugh, this is gonna take a very long time, isn't it?
Even longer if you get another hardware kicking lecture. So be good.
Creatures and workers of the ship, prepare to have your auditory system tantalized with another brief adventure of Captain Star-Ration and their sidekick, Processor Bot Program number 3. We join our intrepid heroes just sitting down to brunch with the enlisted creatures of an average working ship. A ship very much like yours, which Captain Star-Ration has just saved from the evils of planet-side Proteus and their dirt-grown miscreant gang.
Gee, good golly gosh, Captain Star-Ration! I truly thought I'd never get away disgusting hippies! Eating all that food growing in the dirt and grime of planetary soil must have scrambled their brains something good!
You can say that again, my friend in uniform, but never fear. They're gone now, and I have a feeling they'll think twice before trying to board this vessel again.
I just wish we had some way to say thank you for all you've done for us, Captain Star-Ration. Just to show our appreciation.
A good meal and the company of a good crew are all the thanks a captain needs. Don't you worry.
It's a disaster! Oh my gosh, oh goodness, it's an absolute disaster!
Why, what's the matter, valued ship employee?
It's the rations, Captain. They've gone floppy and limp!
Floppy and limp, eh? I thought you told me the culinary department on this ship only used Captain Star-Ration Star-Brand rations.
I thought they did, Captain. Honest.
Don't you lie to me. Captain Star-Ration Star-Brand rations never go floppy and limp. Never! Processor bot program number 3. Give me my gun.
Captain Star-Ration! No, you can't!
Whenever there's a problem with the rations, it's time for action.
Join us next week for another brief adventure of Captain Star-Ration and their sidekick processor bot program number 3. And, in the meantime, when you choose a ration, make it Captain Star-Ration Star-Brand rations. Because the next ship Captain Star-Ration finds themselves on could be yours. So you see, it's really quite a simple matter once you know how these babies like to talk to you. They're fiddly and hateful, but, it's a job. I'm sure spending all day long fighting with antique and hostile software won't have any long-term mental effects. At least that's what they've told me to say. They also said I tend to talk a lot. Hey, either of you hear that announcement this morning about the reviews?
Oh, yeah.
No, I vowed not to listen to announcements. All they do is stress me out.
Jeez. Ain't you a trainee, though?
Yeah, but don't let that affect what you're thinking. It's only until the end of this month.
This one's been drinking printer ink, huh?
That was personal ink.
You're not as wrong as I want you to be.
You the supervisor?
Only unwillingly.
Well, you better get them up to speed and fast. I hear they like to start with the bottom feeders first. And let's just say it like it is. You're not exactly highbrow down here, are you?
Do you understand anything this weirdo is saying?
Oh, yeah. I've worked with technicians before. Are we good to go here?
Fit as a pickle in a tickle of water.
Thanks for your help.
Don't you mention it. You just get the newbie there straightened out, or they're gonna run their newbie rear end ragged out there.
And I'm the newbie, right?
There you go, you're getting it. As for you, I don't envy your life.
Hey, no worries. Nobody else does either. Thanks for the help.
Don't mention it. Unless you're summoned to give a testimony at the official feedback hearing. In that case, absolutely mention it, as my life could be in your tentacles.
Can do.
So that was a technician, huh?
Yeah, they're a strange breed. They were right, though. You ought to be prepared for your review.
This is one of the lowest importance jobs on the entire ship. How much do they care?
They don't care what your job is. They care that you're doing it like they want.
Which, for all they know, I am, right?
For the most part. Trash these duplicate files ending in A113 as well. We don't need them. But it's not enough that you do the job. You have to prove you're doing the job. Justify why the job should exist at all. Jump through all these little hoops. And every time you stumble, they'll use it as a reason to withhold a promotion, downgrade your salary, laugh in your face, revoke fingernail privileges, things like that.
Geez, this is a little one here. BEI 3487. What's BEI?
We don't have a BEI designation for anything. Is it corrupted?
Doesn't seem to be.
Pause the queue then and open it up. Let's see.
Oh, it's a typo. Somebody misabbreviated extraneous but interesting. It's a draft for a story! That's pretty neat. Let's get it printed out and stuck in.
It's not formatted the same, Jonas. We don't have time for that. You definitely don't have time for that, since you should be getting ready for your review.
Well, we can't just delete it. It's a piece of history.
Technically, all these files here are pieces of history. Why don't you make a fuss about those?
Those are pieces of boring history I don't care about. This one I do.
Look at the number attached to it, Jonas. It's 3,487. The extraneous but interesting folder, which I am regretting telling you about more and more as time goes by, has millions of little stories in it. This one can go missing.
But that's just why it can't. It's part of the earliest history of the folder. This is like the first half of a percentage of the folder itself.
It's one story out of millions. It'll never be missed. And we're taking too much time with this now. We've got stuff to do. Trash it and let's move on.
We don't even get to read it.
Time, Jonas, time.
Oh, but that's gonna drive me crazy.
That's too bad.
It's probably all I'll be able to think about.
Shame.
Probably won't be as good at working.
What's new?
Probably will just keep talking about it like this, which might get a little annoying. Although not everybody feels that way, I suppose.
Are you determined to bomb your review and get on my last nerve? Because you're going the right way about it, and your multitasking is very impressive.
Just don't say I didn't warn you.
Right back at you, my soon-to-be badly reviewed friend. Reformat it if you want. Just don't be upset in the future.
The future doesn't exist, Bethany. It never has and it never will.
You're allowed to philosophize or reformat, but not both.
That's fair. I thought you'd be excited.
We're all wrong sometimes.
Sometimes I wonder why you even told me about the folder.
You found it and asked me about it, if I remember correctly. Don't make me a catalyst here. I'm exclusively reactive.
No. Well, sometimes I think you regret talking to me about it.
You're not wrong.
And sometimes I get a little suspicious.
Do you?
I do. I get a little suspicious about what you might do to the folder if you get too regretful about it.
Jonas, reformatting might be very simple, if time-consuming, but I'm actually trying to focus on something a little more complicated here. Why don't you just say what you want to say, huh?
Fine. I think you might get rid of the folder someday.
Really?
Yeah, really.
You think that you, exclusively, are responsible for making me so annoyed with the folder that I would destroy it? Despite it being one of the things on this ship I cherish most, up to and including a vast majority of the crew?
Yes.
Go study, Jonas. Work and study. You can worry about the impossible later.
Joke's on you, I can worry and work at the same time.
Supervisors, middle management, regular worker drones, employees of all status and importance, this is your final warning. Time is running very short. To catch this work period's most hilarious, most dramatic, and most loved cinematic experience of the work period, sequel. That's right, we've done it again. We've taken something artistic and personally meaningful to you, ripped the characters out, negated the entire ending of the first film, brought in a team of unhappy writers, and have churned out nearly 83 minutes of semi-passable visual entertainment. What is it a sequel to, you might be asking? Yes is the answer. We've got all your favorite characters like gruff parent figure with a heart of gold.
When Deborah finally passed, I thought a light had gone out inside of me and I would forever live in darkness. But you pushed the darkness back. My child, you are the light of my life.
Murderous gang leader that is somehow intimidating despite the fact that they're half the size of all their henchmen. These thugs aren't here to protect me. They're here to clean up after I get through with you. Small child that always seems to have a one-liner at the ready, but still delivers it awkwardly because it's a small child and they're terrible at acting.
Risky? I thought you said whiskey.
And many more. We know you have limited amount of free time to spend being entertained, so why gamble on enjoying something new when you can get the surefire satisfaction of watching Sequel? Remember, it's not amazing, but it is familiar. Sequel. Everybody else is seeing it. You might as well too.
And with that there, I think that might actually be it. Alright. It's unimportant. It's mind-numbing. There's probably a feature in the program itself that would allow all this to happen automatically. But at least it's done. It's amazing how much work a person can accomplish when they're left. Hey, speak of the Robo-Devil. Welcome, finally.
Hi, Bethany.
I was wondering where you were. You're pretty late. Thought you might have gone to medical for something.
Only if they can fix being useless.
They do lobotomies now, I hear. Not too expensive either. Couldn't hurt to try.
You need a brain for that, and obviously I don't have one.
What's all this? No banter? No back and forth? It's not fun insulting you if you take it seriously, Jonas. Don't ruin my hobby.
I'm sorry.
Alright, you're actually starting to worry me here. What's going on?
My review.
Bad?
They brought out a thesaurus because they ran out of synonyms for bad.
Well, yeah. But you kinda knew that was gonna happen, right?
It's not just that. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's that. But it's not just that. It's all of it.
I see. You hate the way the uniform fits around the lower tentacles. Me too. It's a common thing.
Thanks for trying, Bethany. I'll just be over here with my ferns. Hi, sweet babies. I'm a failure. You know that? Your caretaker is a complete failure.
Okay, that's the single most depressing thing I've seen in this office. Talk to me, Jonas.
It's nothing. It's fine. I'll just finish up the project.
I just finished it.
Of course you did.
Look, it'll be crappy for a while. You'll get docked some points, sure. Might even have insurance revoked and pay garnished for a bit. But it won't last for more than a few months. Maybe 5 years tops. That's not too bad, right?
It's not the punishment or anything like that. You know, I don't really care about job performance.
Obviously. But go on.
It's just that my caretakers are going to find out about this eventually. That's going to be terrible.
That's what you're worried about? Jonas, they don't send reports to your caretakers. You aren't being educated anymore. Look at me. I haven't accomplished a single worthy thing in my life. And aside from you and maybe an overzealous manager type in my direct chain of supervisors, nobody has any idea.
Attention, crew member Jonas in the General Data Acquisition and Storage Department. Repeating. Attention, crew member Jonas in the General Data Acquisition and Storage Department. The following is a collective message from each and every single one of your caretakers. Quote, "We are all incredibly disappointed in you and wanted to make that clear in the most public way we could." End quote. Repeating collective message from your caretakers, quote, "We are all incredibly disappointed in you and wanted to make that clear in the most public way we could." End quote. Happiness is productivity.
You know how sometimes it takes a while for you to find out you were wrong about something? This is not one of those times.
And now I'm not only a failure, I'm a public failure. Awesome. Good day. Go me. Woo-hoo. Woo-hoo. Yeah.
Hey, now, it's not that... Oh, well, no, I guess it is that bad. But you'll get through it.
I'm a laughing stock.
I'm not laughing at you.
That's only because you're constantly annoyed by my presence. It doesn't count.
Jonas, this isn't a time to be turning away the companionship of people who tolerate you. It may be all you have.
I'm surprised you don't work in medical with a bedside manner like that.
There you go. If you distract yourself enough with work and cover your emotions with a thin veil of humor like that, you'll be back to living life in no time.
I hate myself.
That's actually perfect, because it's a very unhealthy life to live. I wouldn't recommend it for anyone who actually liked themselves. That'd be irresponsible. Oh, come on now. Don't make me do it. You know how much I hate it. You're really gonna make me, huh? Fine. In all seriousness, from the bottom of my heart, honestly, Jonas, I'm glad I have you as a coworker. You don't actually make my days worse, and even when you get on my nerves, it's better, in general, than not having you around.
Bethany, you really mean it?
I've told you before, I don't like people leaking emotional fluids around me. And you're very soggy, so I must like you, Jonas, or I wouldn't be here right now.
Thanks. I just hate being embarrassed. I'm fine with being a failure, obviously. It just sucks that everybody knows it. It's gonna be a terrible walk to the cafeteria tonight.
Yeah, but that's later. You still have a whole shift before that. And I've known you were a failure from the beginning, and obviously I don't care. So we can just pretend like nothing has happened this whole time if you want.
Is that a real suggestion or just what you want?
It can be both.
I don't think that'd work.
You just need to take your mind off things.
Does that mean that you might possibly be willing to maybe read me out that story that I transferred over to the EBI?
That's an option, but let's explore the possibilities in front of us.
No, I like that idea.
Really?
Really?
You probably like it more than most other things I could suggest right now, huh?
Yup.
Especially things that would take less of my time, right?
Most likely.
And how did I get myself into this again?
You made a friend.
I knew that was going to come back to bite me. So, this particular story got found pretty early. Really early, actually, in the grand scheme of things. You know that. I'm stalling. Okay, so you know how during your education you had some class called literary perception or the subtle art of language or something weird like that?
Oh yeah, mine was called lingual aptitude.
That's horrendous, and I'm going to ask you to never say those words to me again. But in that class, I'll bet you had to read quite a bit, huh?
A little bit, although it was mostly grammar, if I'm not mistaken.
Did you ever read The Tragedy of the Two Families That Didn't Get Along and Then Their Offspring Fell in Love?
Yep, I remember that one. We had a whole week about the incredibly bland but accurately titled literature period.
A classic story, right? Two households, dignified, rich, olden times, big clothes. They hate each other for some reason. Youngest offspring from each family meet each other, fall in love, are found out, told they can't see each other, couple of murders happen, offspring accidentally both kill themselves, families reconcile. I never particularly liked this story. It's fine. I didn't hate it like some of the other students did. But it didn't really grab me as this grand examination of romance's inability to conquer hatred without abject tragedy. So it was very strange when I came across the data that became this story, because the planet we just incorporated had a tiny section on a tiny but very wealthy town And in that tiny section of the tiny town were two families, both alike in their dignity and wealth, who had two young children having recently begun to change into sexual maturity.
Ugh, that's a terrible time for any species.
You know, I actually heard a rumor once that one of the only constants in the entire universe is that species that don't reproduce asexually or are not born able to reproduce generally detest the change into sexual maturity.
Really?
No, but it's one of those things that kind of sounds true, right?
Yeah, I bet you could convince somebody of that.
So I'm reading this data, kind of not believing what I'm seeing. I was still pretty new at the time, not used to all the weirdness yet, and it turns out when it's not fictional, the story carries a bit more weight. I started thinking about these two little beings, just wanting to love each other as best they could, and some ancient grudge that nobody could remember is making it horrendously difficult for them. Seriously, even our scanners and data miners couldn't figure out the reason for these families hating each other. That's how minuscule and unimportant whatever happened was. But decades later, it's still there. If anything, it's grown. Have you ever noticed that happens with fanaticism? The original people are never as crazy as the ones that come on board later on.
Well, if you're too crazy right away, it's probably hard to start anything that anybody else would feel fanatical about, right?
Huh.
Either that or beings just naturally tend to feel like they have something to prove if they feel like they're the latest to adopt something, so they go overboard.
Did they do something to you during your review? Because that's two insightful statements in a row, and that's odd.
The depression clears parts of the mind and fogs others.
Very poetic, thank you.
I'm glad my suffering pleases you.
Uh-huh. Don't even start that now. Anyways, these offspring just got to be for some reason. And so I'm reading the data, I'm worried for them because I figured I know exactly how this story is going to end. There's only one ending that I'd ever heard. But weirdly enough, that didn't happen. Everything was going just like I thought it would. They were making plans to run away with each other. They had even gotten help from a couple of family friends to do it. But they were still so young for their species. Just barely edging their way into maturity. They were dumb, is what I'm saying, like most young offspring are. I certainly was. They got caught. And when I read that, my second stomach just dropped like somebody was screwing with the gravity for the ship. I just figured, here it goes. Thus begins the tragedy. There was anger, a large confrontation, almost a giant fight. And then, the quieter of the two offspring just put up one claw very politely, like they were being educated. It was so unexpected in the middle of all that chaos that everything kind of stopped for a while. And a sentence was uttered that was so impactful, it brought peace to the moment. And they didn't even stay together very long. They eventually decided that they'd just be friends and drifted away from that little settlement. Went around the world, had separate lives, loved and lost and lived the best they could. But that hopeful phrase that the quiet offspring uttered was so powerful that the heads of both daily households had it injected into their flesh with a permanent ink so they'd never forget it. And you know the real end of the story. Incorporation! Boof. What's theirs is ours. And that was probably the simplest story I ever tried to add to the folder. Bada boom!
But
I know the question you're gonna ask.
the phrase.
The hopeful phrase.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I liked the story for the simple fact that it showed occasionally things can just work out well. But I remember the story because it's the first time I realized that something in the ship censors the data before we even get it.
What do you mean?
I mean, what we get isn't the raw data. Something, probably an AI, is taking out things that the company doesn't want seen.
Like what?
In this case, it was a sentence about hope. In the past, it's been weapon diagrams or urban planning concepts or music or the local name of a small beetle. No real pattern that I can tell.
That's really sad. I could use a sentence about hope right now.
Yeah, you could. And that's why they censor things like that. But hey, Jonas, come on, look at me. It'll be okay. It'll be tough, but it'll be okay. And through it and on the other side of it, we'll just keep doing our thing. Okay?
Sometimes things can just work out, right?
Sometimes, Jonas. Sometimes.
Episode 17, Review Bombing, was written, produced, and edited by Monte D. Monteleagre and Alexander Wolfe. Allyson Levine voices the character of Bethany. Raimy O. Washington voices the character of Jonas. Ellis MacMillan is the Robo-Archivist. In this episode, Chase Guthrie Knueven played the technician as well as the Captain Star-Ration spokesperson. Joe Hanson played Captain Star-Ration as well as the poor crew members nearby Captain Star-Ration. Finally, Katie Ploetz brought the entire sequel advertisement to life by herself. As always, I'm Leah Cardenas, and I read the ship announcements as well as the credits. Everybody at Ink the Podcast would like to beg you for a hastily written and incredibly emotional review left on your podcast platform of choice. Or, failing that, we'd like you to get really obsessive about us, to the point that friends and family begin to worry about your sanity. Then, and only then, will we have truly completed our mission. Find us online at inkthepodcast.buzzsprout.com for links to all our social media, or connect with us directly at Ink the Podcast. That's at INC the Podcast. Ink is a production of Wolf Mountain Workshop. Happiness is productivity.
Productivity is happiness.